Dear listener, what's the first thing your mind tells you when someone really close or important to you starts to pull away from you? Do you assume that you perhaps did something wrong? Or do you go into this fix-it mode internally? Or maybe do you just shut down completely? Today's episode is for those moments when a friendship starts shifting and you notice that shift and you feel that familiar ache of panic that's rising in your chest. Welcome back to today's episode. I'm so glad you're here, especially as we wrestle through the experiences that so many of us can relate to. And before we take the deep dive, I just want to remind you of a couple of things that I'm thinking I'll say often because they keep on coming back. They keep on coming up and people ask me. So, no, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm just a fellow human being. Someone who's been in the trenches of connection and disconnection and everything in between. So, I'm passionate really about helping you build friendships that are rooted in intimacy and integrity. These two words are so important to me: intimacy and integrity. And how can we experience these more abundantly? Here's how I define these two words. For me, integrity is simply the alignment between one's inner values and their external actions, their outer actions. And intimacy, that's the sacred work of allowing someone to really see you. I heard someone once define intimacy as intimacy. Both of these concepts are beautiful, both are vulnerable, and both are put to the test when someone that you care about starts to pull away. So let's start here. When someone pulls away, whether slowly or suddenly, it stirs something primal in many of us, doesn't it? You might start perhaps to replay every recent interaction you've had with this person. You might start second guessing your tone that you had. You might start scrolling back to the texts, maybe to see if you've missed a signal along the way. Your body might experience tightening. Your thoughts might begin to spiral, and before you know it, you're no longer responding to what's really happening in real time. Instead, you're reacting to the fear story that your mind is playing on repeat. And this is so important to name. When people distance themselves, it often activates old wounds inside of us, not just the present pain, but the old experience that we probably forgot about for a moment. It's not just this friend pulling back per se, it's all the past moments when you felt like you were ghosted and where you experienced being dropped or forgotten or misunderstood. And that's why it feels so big. So, if you've ever felt like you're overreacting when someone grows distant, I want you to reframe it. You're not overreacting. You're actually just responding to something your nervous system has learned to fear and to respond with fear. And so the invitation here is to pause. To pause before the panic sets in. So let's walk through 3 of the most common reactions that I've noticed we default to when someone starts to pull away or distance themselves from us. So the first one I'm thinking of is the fixer. The fixer. This is where you immediately reach out. You over-explain yourself. You check in multiple times. And you try to get back to normal before they've even named that something has changed. Why? Because control feels safer than confusion, doesn't it? But the risk here is you can end up violating your own boundaries out of that fear story that your mind is playing. And you lead with performance instead of with presence. Secondly, I'm thinking of the fantasizer. This is where you romanticize a friendship. You tell yourself, they're just busy. And you ignore patterns and cling to hope that things are better than they really are. Why? Because it's easier to avoid disappointment than to face the possibility of letting go. But the risk here is that you disconnect from reality in the name of loyalty. You abandon your own intuition, in essence. And then thirdly, there is the eraser. This is where you shut down, you pretend you didn't care in the first place, you beat them to the punch by detaching completely. And why do you do this? Because if you disappear first, you can't be left behind. But the risk on this one here is that you deny your own need for clarity and you miss the opportunity for healthy closure or even repair. So, my dear listener, which one of these shows up in you? Because the more self-awareness we have, the more integrity we can practice. This next part is where the real work begins. How do you move with integrity when you don't know where the other person stands? And how do you stay aligned with your values when your heart feels fragile? Here's what that might sound like in real life. You could say something like, I'm noticing some distance and I don't want to make assumptions, but I just wanted to check in. Or you could say something like, I value this friendship immensely and I want to be honest that I've been feeling a bit of a shift. I'd love to hear where you're at. Now, I want you to notice in these examples that you're not blaming anyone. You're not begging them. You're not pretending that nothing's wrong. No, instead, I think what you're doing is you're speaking from your center. From alignment, you're speaking. From intimacy and integrity. All these are on display. So here are a few things that you can do instead of spiraling. You could name your feelings privately first, perhaps. Maybe consider journaling or making a voice note or telling someone that you trust. Not to gossip, but more so to process. Or you could ask yourself, what would it look like to stay aligned with who I want to be, even if it doesn't resolve the way I hoped for? And give space without ghosting. Like sometimes pausing is necessary in a friendship, but let it be an act of wisdom instead of withdrawing. Because you can create room for clarity without creating chaos. And one of the deepest fears people carry is being left emotionally, being left energetically, or even especially being left relationally. But let's reframe something here. When someone pulls away from you without communication, that doesn't make you unworthy. It makes them the ones who are unprepared. See, it takes courage to navigate with clarity. And not everyone has that courage yet. But you most certainly do if you're considering. You are allowed to want reciprocity. You are definitely allowed to crave closeness. You are allowed to feel sad when things shift. And none of that makes you needy. It makes you human. Intimacy says, this is who I am, and I'm not going to abandon myself to earn your nearness. Integrity says, even if you leave, I'm going to stay honest and soft in how I move forward. That, my dear listener, that's power. That's protection without disconnection. That's how you stay whole. So, if someone in your life feels far away from you right now, and you're feeling that instinct to chase them or to shut down or to overfunction, take a breath. Come back to center and then ask, what does it look like for me? What does it look like for me to stay aligned with my values, even in this moment here? And what does it mean to let someone walk away without making myself wrong for it? What story do I want to write about myself when I'm remembering this moment? My dear listener, you deserve connection that's rooted in clarity, not confusion. You deserve to feel safe inside yourself, even when a relationship feels unsafe or unclear. So let that be your anchor. Next time, we're diving into how to set expectations in new friendships without killing the magic. Because excitement and discernment can live in the same space. I so appreciate you for listening even to the end with me. Thank you for listening, and if this stirred something in you, take a moment to pause, to journal, or even to forward it on to someone who you feel might need to hear this message as well. Until next time, my dear listener, go gently. You're doing better than you think.